Welcome to Dawn of a Story. This is more than a podcast. It's a place where we speak the truth, tell the stories that shape us, and honor the moments that made us who we are. I created the space because I believe storytelling is how we connect, how we heal, and how we remember who we are. Some stories are still being written. Some are full of laughter. Some have changed everything, but all of them matter. Whether it's my story or one of my guests, my hope is that you hear something that resonates, that reminds you that you are not alone and encourages you to tell your story too. So settle in because every story starts somewhere, and this one starts now. Welcome to Dawn of a Story. I'm your host, Dawn Pascal. I'm so very grateful you decided to spend your time with me and my guest this week, Amanda Walsh. Every show, we will be exploring a new theme, and this week's theme is family found or chosen. What if the family you were born into wasn't the one that would ultimately shape you most? Today's story is about the people we find and choose to call home. So let me tell you a little about my guest, Amanda Walsh. She is the visionary CEO and founder of Astrology Hub, the leading online platform for astrological education and insight. With a passion for demystifying cosmic wisdom, she empowers a global community to navigate life with greater clarity and purpose. Her dedication has made Astrology Hub a go-to resource for both aspiring and seasoned astrologers. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, Amanda. I'm so happy to see you and welcome to the show.
Dawn, it is such an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Please is all mine. I mean, I've been an Astrology Hub Inner Circle member now for, let's see, going on 3 years. And, you know, I'm really, I don't know how to really convey in words how truly grateful I am for the community that you created, because I found it at a time in my life when I really needed sort of like a global hug, right? Outside of my sort of family confines. And Astrology Hub did that for me, and the Inner Circle did it for me. So thank you. It's a wonderful, wonderful group.
That makes me so happy to hear.
All right. So our theme today is family found or chosen. So, you know, how did you find your family?
I had gone through a very heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching life experience. And what I've found is that, like you just shared, Dawn, most people come to astrology in either times of major transition, times where they feel lost, times where they've sort of exhausted all the answers that are available and they're going, wait, none of this makes sense. There's got to be something more. So I also was in a similar situation. And in that situation, I found astrology. I had my first astrology reading. I had never really even given astrology much of a thought before then. I mean, I was like too snobby to even be snobby about astrology. Like I was just like, there's no way this thing has any merit. Like that's ridiculous. It's kind of how I thought. So anyways, I have my first astrology reading and it blows my mind. And it was a few years after that though, after I had really been engaging with astrology, it had really become a lighthouse in my life when I was going through this really, really dark night of the soul. And I had been looking for something that I could feel passionate about, that I knew helped other people, and that would utilize my unique gifts and talents. And that also could take care of my, what is it? I guess chosen family in a way, the family that I created, right?
Right.
So I had this opportunity to start Astrology Hub with a person who had bought the domain name Astrology Hub years before and had just been waiting for someone to do something with it. And I was like, oh my God, I'll do it. Like whatever it is, I'm in. Because I knew that astrology was ticked all those boxes. You know, I was in love with it. It was helping me. So it must be, maybe it could help other people too. Right. And it provided so much value. So certainly there would be potential that people would pay for it. Right. We do our first online summit. This is the first thing we do in 2015. So this is 10 years ago now. And there were no online summits in the astrology world at all at that time. You had to travel to conferences. You had to move to find a teacher who might teach you, you know.
Right.
It was very revolutionary at the time. It's now very run of the mill, but it was like a brand new idea. And so we put this out. It's called Astrology Secrets 2.0, and the secrets to health, wealth, and love. And I interview like 33 astrologers, and I barely know anything about astrology at this time. But what amazed me was that 4,000 people showed up. 4,000
That's
people showed
amazing.
up online to this first event. And I went, oh my gosh, like there's
I'm
people
onto
out
something.
there. Yeah, there's people out here who are just as into this as me, if not way more. I mean, the people that gathered for that online summit wanted to learn astrology. They weren't just like, tell me about my sun sign, tell me about my horoscope. They wanted to know how to read charts. And I had these incredible astrologers on that I got introduced to by other astrologers. And so I went, oh my gosh, 4,000 people. That might not sound a lot. I don't know if that sounds like a lot to people right now, but to me,
It
that
is
was,
a lot. Out of
yeah,
the gate, first
right.
out of the gate, 4,000, that is a lot. Absolutely.
Totally, with 0 expectations, like,
Wow.
no idea of how it would go. So anyways, 4,000 people gather, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, let's do that again." The second one, 4,000 more people gather. So now we have 8,000 people, like, in our audience, and it was like this moment of, wow, there are people out there who are just as interested, just as passionate, who want to be able to speak this language with each other. Because
Mhm.
what I found out is that so many of them, they were almost like closet astrology lovers. You know, they maybe the people in their life or the people at their work or whatever didn't even know how much they were into astrology. And it was even more taboo then. You know, it was definitely not. It's way more socially accepted now because of
Right.
social media and
Abs
all these things,
right,
right?
right.
But then it was really like people were lovers of astrology in secret. And so to find a tribe of people who all wanted to speak the language together, who where you could say, I have Pluto sitting on my sun right now, and everyone would go, oh, wow,
Oh, right,
that's a
right, and
big deal.
understand.
You wouldn't have to
Right.
translate it, right? So just to have that alone was so valuable. And so over time it just built and it became this family, this true family of star lovers. And you know, Don, that I love the word Ohana. The word
Right.
Ohana is a Hawaiian word. I live on Maui. I've lived in Hawaii for 13 years now. And uh when I first heard the definition of Ohana, I went, "Oh my God, that's epic." Like that is so deep and so much deeper than most people realize. So a lot of people might recognize the word Ohana as family. And it is. It's not that it's not. It is at surface value, but the Hawaiian language always has a kauna, a hidden or deeper meaning. And so the hidden or deeper meaning of Ohana is any group of people who come together and share breath. Because
Wow.
the Hawaiian culture was very much about breath, shared breath. When they would pray, they would come together. They'd first start with breath. When they would greet each other, they would greet each other with the breath of Ha. They would put their foreheads together and breathe together. And this is something that I've danced hula for almost the whole time I've been in Hawaii, almost 13 years. And when I first joined my hula halau and saw this breath exchange thing happening, I was like, whoa, what is that? Second, when I did it, it was amazing, Dawn, how any judgment, any like hesitation or like walls that you might have up, how they
Mhm.
just disintegrate. I mean,
Right, I bet.
yeah, you know, I would walk into hula some nights just feeling sort of agitated or frustrated or whatever. Share the breath of Ha with people. Done. Everything is different. It's synchronizing the fields. And it's very intimate, it's very personal, and it's like impossible to like dislike someone after you've shared something like that with them. So Ohana means those who come together and share breath. And I call like our inner circle membership, which is our inner circle community that Dawn's a part of, our Ohana. It is. We do. We come together, we share breath. We share breath at the new moon. We share breath. I mean, truthfully, we're all sharing breath. Like
Mhm.
the whole entire planet is sharing breath. And then when you come together and you do it intentionally, there's something really powerful about it. So for me, family chosen has happened through a love, through a language, the language of the stars, the love of the stars, and also, even more accurately, the love of that question of who are we really?
Mhm.
What are we doing here? What is each person here to contribute to the whole? And how does astrology help us find that path and live that path? And I get to be around a bunch of people who love those questions too, and who are on that kind of a quest as well. And it's just super fun. I'm like grateful every single day for that.
So did you think that just that first online summit, and I'm sort of, when you were saying that, I got the vision of you dropped a pebble into a body of water and you just watched that ripple happen. So did you think that the ripple would get that big? Like, did you, I guess you
No,
really didn't know that there were that many people that were like, "Oh ho, hey, I
no
like that
idea.
too."
No
Wow.
idea. No idea. And I mean, I think it's just a testimony to really following the enthusiasm within us that and the desire. And Don, you've probably heard me talk about the word desire,
Mhm.
which is
Yes.
desidere, which means of the stars.
The
So
stars.
so the desire that is in us, I'm not talking about superficial, like I want to eat ice cream right now. I'm not talking about that kind of desire. I'm talking about that soul level, like urge, that soul level calling, that whisper that doesn't stop. The one that's like nagging, like go here, go there, explore this. And that full body enthusiasm we get when something's just like, ooh, yes, that there's something there. I really was following that. I was really following that, and it has just been so beautiful to meet the people on the other side of that urge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you described it that way, because that's how I feel about Astrology Hub and what the inner circle did for me, right? And I know that deep down in your gut kind of feeling of, this is something that I need to do. And I felt that way since I was 5, which was kind of how this whole podcast came about, many, many decades later, but that's fine. But I also but I
It's never
also
too late,
found
Don.
right, that thank you. I'm happy you said that. Thank you.
Yes.
But I also found that desire through the bakery that I had for, 10, 11 years.
Yes.
And then the podcast sort of came out of that, but it was cultivated by just conversations and messages and exchanges and podcasts that I listened to, and full moon and new moon ceremonies, and a lot of the routine and ritual of what you brought to the universe. And I stepped into that, and it helped me get the courage to do this in this way, right? I've had an energetic lump in my throat, I'd say probably for about 2 years. And I knew that it was either I had something going on physically, which it wasn't, or I had something going on metaphysically, which it was, right?
Yeah.
And here we are today. So,
Mm, yeah. Yes. It's amazing too how they might shift, right? So you had that for the bakery for a long, long
mhm,
time, and that enthusiasm, it brought you great success, and you met amazing people, and you cultivated a skill, and you offered something to the world. And then it started to shift. And I think so
yeah.
often we get afraid to make that next leap
Mhm,
because there's something safe and secure that we need to let go of in order to go towards that new thing. But the truth is, humanity at at large right now is being asked to make that shift, make
right.
that leap into this next unknown. I mean, we truly, and you know this, Dom, because you follow the astrology. I mean, we truly are in uncharted territory right now,
Mhm,
and through this whole decade, really. And we're at the kind of like the height of it. And so many, many people are feeling like, huh, that thing I was doing before, I don't know, it doesn't light me up as much as it did.
Right.
I don't really know what's next. I don't even, but just being willing to ask the questions, being willing to explore the curiosity, that alone, I feel is enough to really open up the field for new potentials and possibilities to come in.
And I agree, and not push down the inner voice, right? Like, listen to the inner voice, because we
Yeah.
all have one, right? And
Yeah.
they're all and it's all saying something, and
Yes.
sometimes it's saying things that are not
We
so
don't.
nice about ourselves, which we have to stop doing. And then
Right.
sometimes it's to your point, pushing you in that direction to take a leap, and you just have to trust yourself to do it, right? If you've done it before, you can do it again in a different capacity. And again,
Yeah.
because if it's speaking to you, then you have to answer that call. That's
Right.
my, you know,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, totally.
Dawn, back to the whole family thing. I remember in that first reading, the woman who gave me the reading looked at my chart and went, "Huh, you've had a really great family life, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yes." She goes, "It is really rare for me to look at a chart and see kind of like a clean family environment." And I was
Wow,
like,
really?
I was like, I know, I know. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I feel like it is a gift that was given to me to experience love in a family, to
Uh-huh.
experience loving parents, loving siblings. I have 3 brothers. They're awesome. I love these men. They were always super protective of me, very kind and beautiful to me. And so what I have always aspired to do, even at Astrology Hub, is to extend that gift forward, is to
Mhm.
give people an experience of loving, respectful family, whether it's, this is chosen family, this is soul family. We all can access that. And so often it's really just that we might not even believe it's possible. So to have examples of, and to be able to see visually or hear stories of families that do work, of friendships that do support and encourage each other, that, instead of tearing each other down, we're like helping to
Building
straighten
each
each
other
other's
up.
crown.
Right.
Yeah, like, hey, you can do this, and to me, that is what we're here to do as humans. Ultimately, that is our expression in its most pure form. We learn the other stuff. We
Right.
learned the other way. So, I wanted to bring that in because I do feel I have felt like this is it's almost a responsibility I've been given to cultivate family in the situations that I'm blessed to be in, whether that's my little family with my 2 girls,
Mhm.
or if that's, in our larger star loving family. But yeah, it is an interesting thing because most people did not have, most people have a lot of pain from their childhood. And I totally
Right.
get that. And I love to be able to offer another another experience of family.
Right. Right. That's absolutely beautiful. You were blessed to have a wonderful family. I'd like to say that I am equally blessed to have a wonderful family and know that feeling of parents that support you and
Yeah.
siblings that support you.
Yeah.
And my father always said to me and my sister, if you want to have a friend, you have to be a friend. So
Mm.
you
Yes.
put out what you want to get back. I mean, it's the
Yes.
same, we can talk about karma, we can talk about the same statement or feeling in 15 different ways, right?
Yeah.
But again, if you put out that positivity and you put out that example of family, then people will show up. Hi, I want to be part of this family. Or,
Yeah.
hey, thank you for showing me the way to have a happy experience with a family member as opposed to constantly bringing up that heartache, right?
Mhm.
In some
Mhm.
situations.
Yeah. I mean, my dad actually had a horrible family experience too, and he made that decision that
Yeah.
it was gonna
Not
stop
going to
with
do
him.
that. Right.
Yes, and so
Right.
that to me is also beautiful. We don't have to redo the patterns, we don't have to play the patterns forward. We actually can be the ones that put a new pattern in place for our families, and he vowed to do it totally differently. And he was the one who, from a very early age, I remember him saying, your siblings will be your best friends. Like, you'll have friends that come and go, but your siblings are going to be the ones that are with you through your entire life. So treat them like your best friends.
Right.
We weren't perfect. There were definitely times where we were fighting, but there was that underneath it all, there was a sense of like, okay, like, we're in it together for the long haul. So let's, you know, treat each other that way. And I remember my
Right.
oldest brother kind of admonishing me in high school. He came in and was like, Amanda, you spend a lot of time with your friends, and that's great. But remember, we're going to be the ones that are with you for life. And this
Wow.
was my older brother. He was probably like in college at the time. And I just remember this. Wow, he's right. He's right.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. How do you feel that astrology changed your sense of identity, if it did or didn't?
Oh, oh my God. How do I count the ways? Are you kidding me? um, Astrology gave me the evidence that I needed, the sort of left brain logical evidence that I needed to truly believe that my life had a purpose,
Wow.
that that purpose was unique, and that I had something to offer the world that only I could offer, and that is true for everyone. And to me, the proof of that, first of all, the fact that there's only one set of fingerprints that are exactly like
Mhm.
yours. There is only one astrological chart that is exactly yours. It
Right.
will not be recreated. It has never happened before. And the reason why we know that is because space and time is never exactly the same. And so, because your birth chart is based on your birthday, time, and location, it doesn't happen again the same exact way. So even if you're a twin, because there's even the seconds or minutes between twins is enough
Between.
to
Right.
make a unique imprint. And so within that chart, there is encoded like a seed, the potential, the potential of who and what you are, and who and what you came to experience and be and give. And I don't know why, but like, I was 13 years Catholic school. I took every single world religion possible in high school and in college. I got my master's in psychology because I was looking for this answer. I wanted to know. It didn't make sense to me that it meant nothing. Like, life just meant nothing, and you just sort of live and then you die and you're like in this black void. That also didn't totally resonate. But all the answers I got from all the religions I searched, and even within psychology, it always felt incomplete until I started looking at astrology, because it was like, how is it possible that those three pieces of data hold so much information? And that's the experience I've had. The deeper and deeper I go into understanding astrology, into understanding my chart, into understanding the different techniques and the different ways, it's like, this is endless, as we are, and it's forever unfolding. And there is so much information here encoded within each one of us. So it's changed me. I mean, it has changed, I want to say, everything about me, but that's not actually true. It has enabled me to amplify the parts of me that are most true. And it has enabled me to let go of the parts of me that I adopted because I thought I should, because I looked around and thought that that's what people do. And so probably I should do that too. It's allowed me to more gracefully just let those things go and like double down on the things that are me. And that's what I see it doing. I see it liberating people to be more and more authentic, more and more true. And the reason why that's important isn't just so that we can be like, oh, look how me I am. Look how, great I am. It's because it's when we live the deepest sense of truth within ourselves that we experience the most fulfillment, the most peace, the most true happiness. It doesn't mean everything's perfect. It doesn't mean life doesn't throw curveballs. It doesn't mean it's every day you feel like freaking amazing. But underneath it, there is that sense of I'm here doing the thing that I came here to do. So I always look at things like microcosm, macrocosm, right? Like if everyone did the thing I'm doing right now, would we have a great world to live in or would we have
Yeah.
not a great world to
Right.
live in?
Right.
So
Right.
when it's just that this has been the path that has spoken to me the most. And some of my friends at Astrology Hub agree. This is the path that we've found. But I know that there's a lot of paths. So, but yes, it's changed tangibly. It has absolutely changed the way I relate to other people. It is much easier for me to be compassionate to other
Yes.
people and the way that they live their life and the choices that they make and the lens through which they see the world. Because astrology proves, again, by virtue of the fact that every single chart is completely unique, that we're going to experience the world differently. We're going to perceive the world differently. We're going to have entirely different experiences. And so who am I to judge the way that you're internalizing the world, the way that
Right.
you're experiencing the world, right? And as a parent, I mean, I can't imagine. I basically had the tool as a parenting tool by the time Sophia, my second daughter, was 2. So my first daughter was 5. So I didn't have it for the first 5 years of her life. But just in the way that I feel I am more capable of stewarding and amplifying who they uniquely are, not who I would like them to be or who I think they should be. It's like I
Right.
can really just cultivate their truth and encourage them to express that as fully as possible.
Right, and
So,
you're also bringing them the same example that you had and what you grew up with, right? So
yes.
you've got
Yeah.
that strong family connection and strong family foundation, and then now
Hmm.
you've added sort of like the fun sprinkles on top of it, right? Reminds me of like the Myers-Briggs tests that we used to take when I worked in corporate America for
Yeah.
25 years, right?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
answer a whole bunch of questions and then you find out that Amanda is an extrovert and a thinker and a this and a
Right.
that. And I don't remember the all the categories. But the idea of doing it was to understand then the makeup of the other individual so you
Yes.
could better relate to them, right?
Totally.
And that's kind of my extremely analytical way of breaking it down in my head, what
Well, it's
astrology
true.
has done for me.
Yeah. I mean, even through my divorce, astrology helped me because, I had always, my parents have been married now over 50 years.
Oh,
And
that's
I always
wonderful.
imagined that I would be like that too. And it was amazing to have an astrology reading around the time of my divorce. Of course, my biggest concern was my daughters and how they would fare through a divorce. The astrologer looked at their charts and went, you know, they're not necessarily wired for the white picket fence. They're actually wired for complexity in relationships.
Hmm.
Do not project your white picket fence reality onto them because they don't necessarily need that. They actually came here to learn about nuance and lots of different types of relationship dynamics. So it gave me such a peace of mind. It was like, oh my God, okay. And it has come to fruition. Now they're 16 and 13 now. They were 5 and 2 at the time. My 13-year-old said to me the other day, because I was telling her, I was like, Sophia, at one point when you were little, I was really nervous about getting divorced with daddy. Like I was afraid that it was going to hurt you. And she
Right.
goes, Mommy, that was the best thing you ever did. And I was
Wow,
like,
seriously.
yes. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like such a full circle parenting moment. It was just like, wow. And she's like, yeah, no, you guys are much better this way. I was like, we were more like brother and sister, honestly, than we were husband and wife. And so anyway, so I'm just saying that it helps me on it helps me on a daily practical level, just making decisions, understanding that everything changes. There's ebbs and flows with life. There's ebbs and flows within one single day to just ride those currents, to not try to fight those currents as much as possible. And also, even in my partnership that I have now. So I've been with him for over 7 years. And we talk about astrology almost every single day. He's not as into it as me, but he loves it. And he loves getting the reflection through it. It's a language that to me bridges people together and is universal. It doesn't know country boundaries. It doesn't know color boundaries. It doesn't know gender boundaries. It is a universal language that we all can use with each other.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. It's a connector. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So do you think that if you didn't have that first reading with Natasha, that you would be in a different place now?
Oh my God, yes. Dawn, I had left Manhattan and this big, huge, corporate career in life that I had built there. And I took this huge leap of faith and moved to Hawaii. It was about a year in that I had this reading with Natasha. The way this happened, an old friend from New York calls me up and says, I just had a reading with someone. And I think you would love it. Like, I think you need to have a reading. And I was like, okay. I trusted her. But of course, I didn't think anything of astrology, but I was like, okay, fine. Like, what is there to lose? Right. She goes, she's in Hawaii somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but just, look her up and set up an appointment. I was like, okay. So I look her up. Not only is she in Hawaii, she's on the same island of me. At that point, I was on the big island. So she's on the same island as me. Not only is she on the same island, she's literally 10 minutes down the street. Like
Stop.
10 minutes down the street. My friend in New York is telling me to have a reading with someone in Hawaii who lives literally almost in the same neighborhood.
Well,
I'm
that's the
like,
universe telling you something. That's without
exactly.
a
Like, this
doubt.
is where it's just like, it's so faded. Even my like very logical, left brain person at the time could not deny that coincidence. It was just like, you can't make this up. And then when I showed up on her doorstep, she opens the door and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I feel like I've known you my entire life. It was just this series.
Wow.
So I know I would be a different person because I, well, and maybe somehow it all would have happened in a different way. But I just know this has been part of my path. So yeah, for sure, I would be different.
So I'd like to believe that Astrology Hub still would have happened, and maybe it would have happened out of a birth of something else, right? Or another circumstance that would have brought you there
Or
because
maybe someone else.
okay, there's that. I never thought of that one.
Have you heard of this idea, this concept? Actually, I read this book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic.
Mhm.
Oh,
No.
it's so good. I really love this book. But anyways, she's talking about ideas, and ideas almost as like, especially creative ideas, like things that are
Mm,
looking for a place to land. They're
mm.
looking for a receptive vehicle who will not only take the idea, but will actually execute the idea. And if we don't answer the call, it's going to move on to
It
someone else.
floats to somebody else.
Yes, it's just like these
Hmm.
ideas, like in the idea sphere, just sort of floating around looking for like a place to land. So, I mean, I don't know that I would have been given the gift of this creation if I hadn't said a very long string and series of yeses, right?
Right. Wow. Okay, never thought about it that way. So that's going to be something that I'm going to noodle on later on.
Yes.
Were there things that I thought about that, yeah, I guess there's some situations that I can think back over the years where I've thought like, "Ooh, I would love to do XYZ," and I said it enough times out loud. Again, I released it into the universe, right? But I never did it myself, and then lo and behold,
Someone
boom,
else
I
does.
find out, yeah.
Totally. Oh my
Okay.
God.
So there you go.
She gives a few stories in this book that are like, just, you cannot deny that this is exactly what happened. I mean,
Wow.
she talks about this one book that she had started writing, but then kind of put on the shelf for like a few years because she was going through a bunch of personal things. But it was a very intricate plot, very intricate and specific plot.
Wow.
She ends up meeting this other author, and then she tries to take it off the shelf and do it, but the juice wasn't there anymore.
Mm.
So it didn't work. She meets this other author like a few years later, one of her favorite authors, honestly. I think that's what it was, one of her, like an author she really looked up to, who started telling her about her latest book. And it is exactly the same story, like in detail. And she goes, oh my God, like the idea floated over to her because she's actually going to execute it. like, I don't know, it's pretty, like, it's a pretty far out there idea, but just notice, and it also makes me think, like, when those ideas land and you're feeling that enthusiasm, like, ride that wave,
Right.
you know,
Right.
if you can, like, definitely ride
Right.
it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, totally. Okay, so while we're talking about books, let's
Yes.
talk about the birth of your book, which, by the way, cannot wait. Cannot wait. So
Thank you.
excited for you. So let's talk about the book.
Talk about an idea that I've had forever that I just Dawn, I got so sick of talking about this book that I was someday going to
Like, I
write.
just
I was
gotta do it.
You know what? I was like so annoyed with myself. I was like,
Yeah.
I keep talking about this thing. I just need to freaking do it. So, of course, I chose an astrological transit, a year-long transit when Jupiter went into Gemini. And I
Gemini,
was like, I'm going to ride that. I'm going to ride that wave because my Jupiter is in Gemini in the fourth house, which is the house of family, which is the house
family,
of roots and
right?
foundations. And I wrote it. So Jupiter went into Gemini last summer, and I took the whole summer to just like get that first draft out. And I did. It was amazing. And
And
then
did
I've
it
taken,
flow out? Like, did you
yes.
feel like the
Oh my
the
God,
the
Dawn,
transits and the aspects helped you? It did,
a
good.
100%. And not only did it flow out, but first of all, it flowed out backwards, which was weird. Like I started at the end and then wrote it to the beginning, which was a really interesting experience. But it wasn't the book that I thought I was going to write. Like I literally thought I was going to write a book that just sort of briefly touched on my story and then taught people how to set intentions with the zodiac archetypes. So
Wow.
starting with Capricorn and just moving through, and I'll probably write that book at some point. But once I started writing my story, it wouldn't stop. And it like turned into what felt like a fictional story. There's dialogue, there's scenes. I'm inviting people into the entire experience in very bold, rich, intimate, personal detail. And so I'm writing this book going, oh God, like, am I actually gonna do this? Because this is way more vulnerable and transparent than I was setting out to be.
Right.
But as I wrote the story down, it was like, you know, first of all, when I lived this story, one of the things that helped me get through some of the darkest points of the story was the thought that if I can do this, if I can pull myself out of these depths, this much chaos and
Mhm.
darkness and like seeming complete, like no way out, if I can do it and then I can live to tell the story, and if I can come out thriving on the other side, maybe someday that story will inspire other people.
Right.
That was a thought that like kept me going through. So when this story started coming out in such detail, I went, okay, well, this is my chance to do that thing that helped me then get even through this. What I realized is that the story, although the details and the context and everything are unique to me, the actual process of transformation that I went through is totally universal. And the things that I struggled with, the self-doubts, the insecurities are also pretty universal. Like regardless of the family of upbringing,
Right.
regardless, it's like these human thoughts and ideas that we all have at different times in our life that we're ready to move beyond. And then halfway through writing the book, I had the idea. It would be amazing if Natasha, the one who gave me my first reading,
Mhm.
provided astrological commentary throughout the story. So she could correlate what was happening astrologically with the sequence of events that were happening in my life. Because so much of the time that I'm in this story, I don't even know about astrology yet. And then I start learning about it. So I like start speaking about it. But for the first part, I don't know anything about it. So she came in, and for about half of the chapters, they end with an astrological commentary. And what this does is for any astrology students, anybody interested or curious about astrology, first of all, you get to see in real time how astrology is unfolding in our lives, whether we're aware of it
Mhm.
or not. But then also it gives you places to go explore your own chart deeper, your own design deeper. And so I'm hoping that it gets people curious about astrology, but also for the students who are already into it, that it gives them some like fun rabbit holes to go down. So it's Life by the Stars by Amanda Walsh with astrological commentary provided by Natasha Alter. And
That's
I'm just
amazing.
so excited to offer
No,
it. It's
I'm
going to be
so
out
I
this
mean, I'm
fall.
so excited too, and the book cover is ridiculously beyond stunning. You announced it and presented it to us in the inner circle, and we
Yeah.
got to see like a little bit of a sneak preview beforehand. I wanted to make sure that you absolutely spoke about the book because it's the same thing to like what I'm trying to do is getting the story out there, right? Like you'd be
Yes.
surprised how many people have aha moments when they hear like, wow, okay, I went through that too. Wow, I went through that as well. Or my circumstance may have been different, my timing may have been different, my
Yes.
age may have been different, whatever,
Yes.
whatever those specifics are. But sure, yeah, we're all sort of kind of weaving in and out the same story, right? Some of our endings are different, some of our beginnings are different, but I'm so happy that you put the words down to paper. Like that is just it's wonderful.
Thanks, Dawn. You know, it was stories that actually helped me through two of the like really big turning points in my own story. One was I birthed my first daughter and ended up having like an emergency C-section, and like the whole thing, none of it went in a way that I would have
Yeah,
wanted.
you
And
thought it was
it was
gonna go, right?
yeah, it was really traumatizing. So with my second daughter, I was like, God, I don't want to do that again. So I was looking into maybe doing a home birth, maybe
Mhm.
doing like, you know, having a midwife and a doula, maybe doing a water birth. And most doctors wouldn't take me because I'd already had a C-section.
Right.
So I did find a midwife who was willing to do it in Hawaii in the water. You know, it ended up being a totally epic experience. But what helped me to rewire the stories and the fear around birthing
Right.
was to watch this one documentary called Birth as We Know It, where they showed woman after woman after woman birthing in these beautiful natural outdoor settings or indoor or in the snow or, you know, just with their partner, but a very different picture than I had been given of
Mhm.
birth up until that moment, because every other picture I had of birth was like a screaming woman in a hospital or a
Right.
doctor, you know, and it was
Right.
horrible, you know?
Right.
So it was rewiring the stories of these other women was rewiring my own sense of what was possible. And then through the divorce, the same thing. I'm hearing stories of people who are doing things differently than what we're always told. We're always
Right.
told it's traumatic and the kids are going to suffer and that everybody's going to hate each other and it's a war. You know, it's like, well, maybe there's another way to do it. And that's why I love what you're doing, Dawn, because the stories are what I personally believe enable us to see and think and create differently.
Hopefully connect us all too, you know?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That's also what I'm going for as well. I
Yes.
mean, and having
Yes.
the bakery and being blessed to be able to fulfill a lifelong childhood dream to,
Yes.
my Venus and Taurus. I'm a Taurus
Oh.
rising,
Oh.
love, making yummy things and preparing it for others. And I was blessed to be able to do that, right? But that was a connection. There's so many times that people walked into my bakery and said, my 3-year-old, my 5-year-old, my 8-year-old has never had anything because they have this allergy and that allergy, et cetera, et cetera. And I became part of their tradition.
Mm.
There were
Mm.
families that came back year after year after year. I did their first cake until I closed my doors in 2021. I did however many cakes that was for that child, however old the child was. You
Oh
get my
my God.
point.
I
And
love
you just get connected and you become part of people's lives. Hopefully this podcast is going to be able to do that, to have people feel that they are connected on a different level and seen and heard, right? There's
that's huge.
nothing better
Yeah,
than being seen and heard.
totally. And it's one of the things that we need the most right now.
Yeah, we do.
The epidemic of loneliness and just feeling isolated. And I love podcasts for that reasons. It's such a intimate thing to share that space with people, you know,
Mhm.
like the podcast I listen to, I'm always like, wow, like this is really intimate. This person's like in my ear, like on my walk or as I do my laundry or whatever. Like a part of my life. And so, yeah,
Right.
what you're doing is beautiful, Dawn.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we go, I ask every guest the same question because I believe the stories we leave behind say so much about how we showed up in this world. So here's my
Mm,
question.
mm,
What's one story, big or small, that you hope people remember you for?
mm. I hope that people remember me as someone who played a role in opening up the door to remembering who they really are. Any of the people that I've introduced to astrology or great astrologers or the stars at all, I hope that they remember that, which I do get to hear very often. Like, thank you. You were my first entry point into astrology. And I just want to thank you for that. So that would be a really beautiful legacy to continue leaving.
Oh, Amanda, that is such a beautiful note to end on. And I want to thank you for sharing that and thank you for being part of this story today. If anyone is interested in learning more about Amanda's story and her beautiful book, which I can't wait to get, you can visit lifebythestars.com. And that is for Amanda's book. And if you're interested in Astrology Hub and the podcasts or the inner circle, you can visit astrologyhub.com/podcast or /inner circle if you're interested in becoming part of the inner circle community that I belong to. So I want to
Mm.
thank everyone for tuning into this episode of Dawn of a Story. If you've heard something today that moved you, made you laugh, or made you think, share it with someone you love. Please like and subscribe to the show. And if you feel brave, please leave a comment below. That's how other story listeners will find out about this channel. So I just want to say until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and keep telling your story. Thank you, Amanda, for being here. This has been wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.